Hey folks, Wally DM here, and today we're going to do our very first character build using the revised or the updated rules for 5th edition. Now for this character build, we're only going to use the Players Handbook, except for the species which we're going to dive into Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. And in fact, the species that are listed in Mordenkainen's are actually supposed to be able to work very well with the new updated or revised rules. Now, if you're new to my channel, my character builds for 5th edition aren't for optimization or min-maxing. I just like to build characters that I would like to play, maybe include a few things that are on theme or have some synergy. Now, with that being said, I really love what they've done with the Sorcerer with the updated rules, and the Draconic Sorcerer has always been one of my favorites, so my very first video for the 2024 or the 5.24 edition is going to be on the Draconic Sorcerer. So here we are on the back end or the character builder portion of D&D Beyond. And before we begin, if you're new to D&D Beyond or wondering how it works with the new updated rules for 2024, let's just take a look at the homepage. Now for a character build, our character preferences, I have turned off homebrew. I want the expanded rules. That's going to allow us to have Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse, where we'll pick our species. And I have left on Legacy, which is going to include 2014 rules. Now you're going to want this if you're going to be adding any type of magic items or maybe using something that's not in the new rules or hasn't been updated yet. Now I have turned off all of the partnered content so it doesn't confuse us as we're looking for spells to choose. The rest of our options remain basically the same. Now we're going to move on to our class, and the class that I have selected is Sorcerer. Now I'll go over the Sorcerer abilities at level 1 and the spell casting after I go through the background and the ability scores. Let's go ahead and put the core character together first. So our first selection is we have 2 skills that we can choose. Now when I build characters, I like to choose one or the other when it comes down to social abilities, and so I have chosen Intimidation over Deception and Persuasion. I also decided to take Insight rather than Arcana or Religion, and there is a reason that I chose Insight, and I'm going to show that to you now as we move on to our background. So here's a trick with character builds if there's a skill that you're not particularly happy with. If you choose a background that has 2 skills, but you choose one of those skills in your class, like we chose Insight, then you're going to be able to choose any other skill of your choosing. So you can see here, I have chosen the Wayfarer background, and I have skill proficiencies of Stealth, plus I get to choose one. Now to show you how that works, if I come back over here to class, and I take off Insight and put it with Arcana, and then come back over here to background, that option to select those are gone, and I just get skill proficiencies, Insight or Stealth. So let's move that back to Insight, and then take a look at our Wayfarer background. So again, we get Stealth plus 1 other ability. Now, in addition to choosing at least 1 social skill, I also like to have 1 physical skill. Now, Stealth is really good, but I'm looking more at the either Acrobatics or Athletics. A lot of DMs will say to either make it Athletics or Acrobatics check, and so I want to have at least one of those two. And since I plan on going very high in Dexterity, I'm going to choose Acrobatics. So now, in addition to our 2 skills, we also get a tool proficiency, which is going to be Thieves' Tools. As a Wayfarer, we ran the streets a bit, so it makes sense that we have Stealth plus Thieves' Tools. Now, one of the new features for 2024 or 5.24 5th edition is each of the backgrounds is going to give you an origin feat. And the origin feat that comes with Wayfarer is the Lucky Feat. Now, this has changed dramatically since the 2014 rules, but it's still pretty good. And basically what we're going to do is we get a number of luck points per day equal to our proficiency bonus. So starting at level 1, we get 2 luck points, and we can use a luck point before a d20 test is rolled to give advantage to our d20 roll, or if we are being attacked before the DM rolls, we can impose disadvantage. So it's still pretty good. If we're in a predicament, we're low on hit points, we may ask the DM to roll with disadvantage and use one of our luck points, or if we're trying to succeed on a saving throw, we can roll with advantage by using one of our luck points. So it's not as good as the 2014, but it's still a really decent option to have. Now, also in the updated D&D 5th edition rules are ability scores. These have been moved to the background, and each background has 3 ability scores that you can choose from. And the reason that I chose Wayfarer is because this background allows me to choose between Dexterity, Wisdom, or Charisma. As a sorcerer, our prime requisite or our main ability is always going to be Charisma, and I like to have Dexterity for the benefit of armor class. So I was looking through the backgrounds before I selected this one, looking for something that gave me Charisma or Dexterity, and Wayfarer fit the bill. Now, with those 3 abilities in mind, we can either choose to add a +1 to each of those, or we can choose 2 of them, add a +2 to one, and a +1 to the other. And that's exactly what I decided to do. We're going to put a +2 in our Charisma and a +1 in our Dexterity. So moving on to select our species, I have chosen the Hobgoblin. Now, if you want to have more spells that you always have prepared, then you might want to take a look at the Tiefling or the Elf or the Gnome. Those are all brand new in the 2024 Players Handbook. But to be fair, the Tiefling really didn't interest me as much. I have played a Tiefling Draconic Sorcerer in the past. He was a fireballer by the name of Demakos, one of my favorite characters that I've ever played, but I wanted to go with something a little bit different. I'm not as impressed with the Tiefling in the 2024 rules, and I feel that now that the Draconic Sorcerer is actually going to give us some prepared spells, that it's not as important to choose a species that gives you more spells. And what I really like with the Hobgoblin is it gives us some really good action economy. So let's take a look. Now, being a Hobgoblin, we're going to be medium. We're a humanoid and a goblinoid. We have a speed of 30 feet, and we have dark vision out to 60 feet. I do love dark vision. Now, we have 3 other abilities that are really cool. The first one is Fey Ancestry, very similar to Elves, where we can have advantage on saving throws that we make to avoid or end the charmed condition on ourselves. The next one that we have is called Fey Gift. You can use this trait to take the help action as a bonus action, and you can do so a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. So I think to better understand Fey Gift, we need to clarify or define exactly what the help action is. And in the 2024 Players Handbook, we have the rules glossary. So let's take a look at the help action. So there are 2 things that we can do with the help action. The first is assist an ability check, and this is going to allow us to give an ally advantage on their next ability check they make with a chosen skill or tool. Now, in order to be able to give them advantage on that roll, there's a few things that need to happen. First is we need to be near enough to them that we can assist them verbally or physically. And the second is we have to have proficiency in that skill or tool. As you can see here, choose one of your skill or tool proficiencies and one ally that is near enough for us to assist them. So if a character is trying to decipher something using a history check and we have the history skill proficiency, then we can assist them with that check and our ally gets to roll with advantage. Now, also remember, if our ally is trying to do something with an athletics check and we are not proficient in athletics, then we're not going to be able to use the help action to help them. The second thing that we can do with the help action is more combat related, and that is assist an attack roll. You momentarily distract an enemy within 5 feet of you, giving advantage to the next attack roll by one of your allies against the enemy. Now, of course, as a sorcerer, we don't really want to be up in melee combat, but if we find ourselves there and our paladin is close, we can give them advantage on their next attack roll. And of course, this benefit's going to expire at the start of our next turn. So help requires an action in combat to use, so that makes it really cool that as a Hobgoblin, we can do this as a bonus action a number of times equal to our proficiency bonus, which is going to be twice starting at level 1. Now, starting at 3rd level, when we use our Fey Gift ability to do a help action as a bonus action, we're also going to get an additional effect, and we can choose between these 3. We could choose Hospitality, which is going to give us and the creature that we are helping a number of temporary hit points equal to a d6 plus our proficiency bonus, or we could choose Passage, and that states that us and the creature that we help can increase our walking speed by 10 feet until the start of our next turn, or we could choose use Spite, and that states that until the start of our next turn, the first time the creature you help hits a target with an attack roll, that target has disadvantage on the next attack roll it makes within the next minute. So not only do we get to use the help action as a bonus action with all kinds of cool stuff, but the Hobgoblin also gives some cool effects that we could tack onto that starting at 3rd level. And then finally, our Hobgoblin's going to get another cool ability called Fortune from the Many. If you miss with an attack roll or fail an ability check or a saving throw, we can use this ability to gain a bonus to the roll equal to the number of allies you can see within 30 feet of you, with a maximum bonus of +3. And we can use this trait a number of times equal to our proficiency bonus. So this is a really neat ability. If we just barely miss an attack or a saving throw in our ability check, we can expend 1 use of our Fortune from the Many, and as long as we have up to 3 allies around us, we can add a bonus to those rolls and hopefully succeed. Wow, I feel like I just did an entire video on the Hobgoblin. I'm super excited to play this character. Now let's take a look at our ability score. So for Orville, my Hobgoblin Draconic Sorcerer, I'm going to put a 15 into Dexterity and Charisma. I am using the point buy method. And then I'm going to put a 14 into Constitution. Wisdom is going to be my average stat at 10, and Strength and Intelligence, unfortunately, are only going to be an 8. Now, I definitely want the high charisma, as it's my prime requisite for Sorcerer. It helps with my spell save DCs and my spell attack rolls, along with many other things. And the Dexterity is going to help us with Initiative and Armor class, and Constitution is going to give us quite a few hit points, which a Sorcerer desperately needs. And of course, you can see here that we have a Charisma of 17 and a Dexterity of 16, because we put our background of a +2 into Charisma and a +1 into Dexterity. So let's move back to our spell casting. As a level 1 sorcerer, we get 4 cantrips and we get 2 first level spells. Now with the sorcerer, you always have your spells prepared, so what you pick is what you have. Now there are 4 spells here. 2 of them are brand new to the Players Handbook for 2024. Let's take a look at them. The first one is Elementalism. Now this is basically the Druid Craft for Druids and the Thaumaturgy for Clerics. This is a really cool transmutation cantrip. So when we cast this as an action, we can beckon air, earth, fire, water, or we can sculpt an element. So like with Beckon Air, we can create strong breezes, we can open doors and shutters, kind of like a gust. With Beckon Earth, we can create a thin layer of dust. We can even use it to write a single word into that dirt or that dust or sand. Beckon Fire, we can create a thin cloud of harmless embers and colored scented smoke in a 5-foot cube, and that can even be used to light candles, torches, or lamps, and that smoke will linger for a minute. Beckon Water, we can create a spray of cool mist that lightly dampens creatures and objects in a 5-foot cube. Alternatively, and here's the best part, you create a cup of clean water either in an open container or on a surface, and the water evaporates in a minute. This is really cool because if we're playing an adventure like Curse of Strahd, where it's going to be a little bit more grim and dark and water might be a resource that is sought after, we don't have to have our druid or cleric use a first level spell to cast Create Water. We can do that once every minute, and we can give fresh water to everyone. This is an amazing spell. I really love this. And then the Sculpt Element part, we can make a little figure in a 1-foot cube of whatever type of element we want: dirt, sand, fire, smoke, mist, or water. The second spell that I chose is an old favorite called Mage Hand, where we can use a spectral hand and we can move it up to 30 feet away and use it to manipulate objects or open doors or containers. The next spell that I chose, and the way that I like to choose my combat cantrips for spellcasters, is I like to have one that I can use for ranged attacks, and I also like to have one that is used as a saving throw. These saving throw cantrips I like to use when I'm in melee combat because I don't want to have disadvantage on my ranged cantrips, or if I'm going up against an enemy that has a very tough armor class. Sometimes it's better to have them make a saving throw, and especially in the case of this cantrip, which is Mind Sliver, which is an intelligence saving throw. So for those of you not familiar, Mind Sliver is going to do a d6 of psychic damage, and whoever is affected by the Mind Sliver has to subtract a d4 from the next saving throw they make before the end of the turn. And of course, that creature will be able to make an intelligence saving throw to be able to avoid those effects. And then our ranged attack is one of my new favorite spells, and this is like the Eldritch Blast for Warlocks. We now have the Sorcerous Burst for Sorcerers. This is a 1-action evocation cantrip that allows us to cast sorcerous energy at one creature or object within range. We make a ranged attack roll against a target, and on a hit, we're going to do a d8 of damage like acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, psychic, or thunder. We choose. But what's cool about this is if we roll an 8 on that damage, then we can roll another d8 and add it to the damage. And if we keep rolling 8s on our damage, we can keep rolling additional damage die equal to our spellcasting ability modifier. So if we have a charisma with a +4 bonus, then we can do that potentially up to 4 times. So a really cool effect. If we roll an 8, we get to roll another damage die. This is absolutely awesome. Now, the Sorcerous Burst cantrip reminds me of one of my favorite leveled spells, which is the Chromatic Orb. And one of the 2 spells that I'm choosing at first level is going to be Chromatic Orb. This is a spell that we make an attack roll on, and if we hit with that attack roll, it's going to do 3d8 of damage of our choosing, whether it be acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, or thunder. And we can hurl this up to 90 feet away. And this is one of my favorites to upcast, and every time we upcast this or use a higher level spell slot to cast Chromatic Orb, we can add a d8 to the damage. But now there's one more effect that is new for the 2024 Players Handbook with Chromatic Orb that you're not going to find in the legacy version of it. And that is in our second paragraph that says, if you roll the same number on 2 or more of the d8s, the orb leaps to a different target of your choice within 30 feet of the original target. Make an attack roll against the new target and make a new damage roll. The orb cannot leap again until you cast a spell with a level 2 or higher spell slot. So what this is saying is if we do hit on our initial casting of this, we roll 3d8 of damage and we roll 2 5s or even 3 5s, then we get to make another attack. We can choose another creature within 30 feet of that target, and the orb will then leap over to them. So we make another attack roll and we roll some more damage. This is amazing. This is a really cool improvement to one of my favorite attack spells. Now, along with an attack first level spell, I also chose a defensive one, and that's going to be Shield. So with Shield, we're going to be able to use a reaction, and when we do, we get a +5 bonus to our armor class. Now, Shield is really good at making potential hits miss, but once we choose Draconic Sorcerer at level 3, our armor class is going to shoot up, and we're going to be a lot harder to hit, and using Shield is going to make us even that much harder to hit. So Shield is one of my favorite spells, and I'm stoked to have it at first level. And now let's take a look at the front end of D&D Beyond and take a look at our spells. So you can see here our attack spell. We have the Sorcerous Burst. That's a range of up to 120 feet. We get a +5 to our attack, and we can do a d8 of damage. We also have Chromatic Orb that requires a first level spell slot, a +5 to attack, and it can do a 3d8. And as you may have noticed, we don't have Mind Sliver here, and I want to add it to my attack. So I'm going to click on Mind Sliver here in D&D Beyond. And when I do this, I can click Customize. When I click Customize, I'm going to click this button called Display as Attack. And then I'm going to come back here, come back to our actions, and now you can see Mind Sliver is there as well. It's got a 60-foot range and a 13 intelligence saving throw, and it'll do a d6 of damage. And if we don't want to see this unarmed strike here, we can click on this, and we can open the Customize. We can remove Display as Attack, and now we no longer have that there. So just a little bit of a D&D Beyond trick for you. So now you may have noticed that we did not pick our Sorcerer Origin yet, or our Sorcerer subclass. That's actually not going to come to level 3 with the new rules. In the past, in the 2014 rules, we would have picked that at level 1. But that's okay. We do get some cool abilities along the way, and the ability that we're going to get as a level 1 Sorcerer is going to be called Innate Sorcery. So with Innate Sorcery, an event in your past has left its mark on you, infusing you with simmering magic. As a bonus action, you can unleash that magic for 1 minute, during which you gain the following benefits. The spell save DC of your sorcerer spells increases by 1, and you have advantage on the attack rolls of sorcerer spells you cast. So if we activate our Innate Sorcery, our Mind Sliver spell would be a DC 14 instead of a 13, and we would have advantage on attacks with our Sorcerous Burst and our Chromatic Orb. And this is just at first level. We get 2 uses of it, and it lasts for 1 minute, which should take us through an entire combat. And let's not forget that as a Hobgoblin, if we just barely miss on our attack roll, then we can use our Fortune of the Many trait up to twice per day to add anywhere up to 1 to 3 to our rolls, depending on the number of allies in the area. So now we're going to take Orville from a level 1 sorcerer to level 2, and that is going to give us our Metamagic options and another spell. Now at level 2 we have Font of Magic, which is going to give us 2 sorcery points, and every time that we advance a level in sorcerer, we're going to get an additional sorcery point, so that whatever our level is, it's going to be equal to the number of sorcery points that we have. Now there's 3 different things that we could do with our Font of Magic. The first thing that we can do is we can convert our spell slots to sorcery points. So if we wanted to use more Metamagic, we needed more sorcery points, we can do that by giving up a few spell slots. So if we gave up a first level spell slot, we would get 2 sorcery points. The second thing we can do is we can create spell slots from our sorcery points. Now that's going to require a bonus action, and we could take, let's say for example at second level, we could take our 2 sorcery points, use our bonus action to convert those to 1 first level spell slot. And of course, D&D Beyond makes it really easy to be able to do, because we have a chart right here, and this is going to go up to level 5. We're not able to create any spell slots higher than level 5. Now, rather than converting our sorcery points to spell slots, we can use them for Metamagic. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the Metamagic options that are available in the 2024 Players Handbook. There's plenty of videos out there, such as one by Treant Monk, which is really good at explaining what each of them do and the new options available. Rather, I'm just going to show you the 2 that I'm choosing. The first one is going to be Careful Spell, and this is the entire reason I wanted to do this video. In the 2014 version of the game, there was a chance that if you cast a fireball and you had allies in the area, that they could be damaged by the fireball. But with Careful Spell, we can spend 1 sorcery point when we cast a spell. Now we're not casting fireball at second level, but when we progress in levels, we're going to want this. And by expending that 1 sorcery point, we can choose a number of creatures up to our charisma modifier, and that's going to include us. If we wanted to protect ourselves, we'd have to choose us as one of those. And those chosen creatures that are protected with a Careful Spell automatically succeed on saving throws against the spell and take no damage if it would normally take half damage on a successful save. So the way that this is going to work is our chosen allies or creatures that we are protecting with our Careful Spell are automatically going to succeed on that saving throw versus the fireball. And since they would still take half damage since they succeeded due to Careful Spell being applied to it, they're not going to take any advantage whatsoever. And I've been waiting for this for a long time. I am super excited about that. And since we don't get any more Metamagic options until level 10, I want to make sure that I have it now. Now the second option that I have chosen is going to be the Quicken spell. Now with the Quicken spell, we can spend 2 sorcery points to cast a spell that has a casting time of an action as a bonus action. Now do keep in mind that if you do this, you're not able to cast any other leveled spells on your turn, and you can only cast a cantrip for your action. But the reason that I like Quicken Spell is more for the disengage. If my party gets surprised and I find myself in melee combat with an enemy, I can use my action to disengage, get far enough away, and then I can Quicken Spell the spell that I wanted to cast. Maybe it's the Chromatic Orb, a Fireball, or what have you. So being able to free up your action to either make an attack or to do something like disengage is where I truly find the value in Quicken Spell. Now, when we become level 2, we actually get to pick 2 more first level spells. And so the 2 that I've chosen, one of them is going to be defensive, and that's going to be Absorb Elements. And with this, we can use a reaction to absorb some incoming energy, giving ourselves resistance to either acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage. That is up to us. The second one that I have chosen is going to be Burning Hands. Now, Burning Hands allows us to shoot flames from our fingertips in a 15-foot cone, and any creature or character that is within that cone has to make a dexterity saving throw or take 3d6 of fire damage, or half as much on a successful save. Now, we just talked about careful spell, so if I wanted to use my careful spell, maybe I am 5 feet behind the paladin or the fighter, I could actually use careful spell and shoot the Burning Hands right through my allies to affect the enemies that they are attacking. Or if I didn't want to use my Quicken spell with my Burning Hands, I could cast something like Mind Sliver with my action, and if they fail the saving throw, they're going to subtract a d4 from the next saving throw. Then I could turn around and Quicken a Burning Hands, and then whoever was affected by the Mind Sliver is going to have to subtract a d4 from the saving throw they make against the Burning Hands. So a couple creative ways to use our Metamagic. So Orville is now a level 3 Draconic Sorcerer, and if you haven't been able to tell, I'm kind of going for a blaster. I want him to be able to bring out all kinds of fire and make his attacks count. He's going to be able to put up some damage. So at level 3, we're going to choose our Sorcerer subclass, which is going to be the Draconic Sorcery. Now we get an ability plus some always prepared spells. So let's take a look at these. The first thing that we get is Draconic Resilience. The magic in your body manifests physical traits of your Draconic gift. And I'm thinking of a red dragon. We're going to call this guy Orville the Red. Inbacher. Orville the Red. Your hit point maximum increases by 3. Because we're 3rd level, we're going to get 3. And it increases by 1 whenever you gain another sorcerer level. Parts of you are also covered by dragon-like scales. Again, the red. While you aren't wearing armor, your base armor class equals 10 plus your dexterity and your charisma modifiers. Now, prior to level 3, we had an armor class of 13. Now we have an armor class of 16, and that is going to be plus 3 from dex and plus 3 from our Draconic Resilience. Now, whenever we get our charisma up to 18, our armor class is going to increase as well. And now also at level 3, if it wasn't for Draconic Sorcery, we'd only have 20 hit points, but as you can see now, we have 23 hit points. Draconic Sorcery makes us a little bit tougher to hit and gives us a little bit more vitality. Now, the other ability that we get for Draconic Sorcery is our Draconic Spells. Now, these spells do not count against our maximum number of spells known or spells prepared as a sorcerer. They're just bonus spells that we can use with our normal spell slots. And at level 3, we get 4 of them. We get Alter Self, which is going to allow us to have like aquatic adaptations or to be able to change or alter our appearance, which is really good in water type encounters or some type of espionage missions. We have Chromatic Orb. Now, if you remember, we've already picked Chromatic Orb, but that is fine because every time we level up as a sorcerer, we can take one of our spells known and we can replace that with a different spell of a level we are able to cast. So we're going to replace Chromatic Orb at level 3 since we're going to always have it prepared, and that's going to allow us to pick a different spell, and I'll show you that in just a bit. We're also going to get the spell Command, which is a fun one. If an enemy fails a saving throw, we can issue a one-word command such as approach, drop, flee, grovel, or halt, and they have to do that to the best of their ability. And then we get Dragon's Breath. So here's a little bit more of a blaster type effect. We can cast this on ourselves or on a willing creature and choose acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. That will come out as a breath in a 15-foot cone, and anyone in that 15-foot cone has to take or will take 3d6 of that damage type on a failed save or half as much damage on a successful one. And that lasts for 1 minute. So you could use your action to just keep doing your Dragon's Breath. Now, I will say that we cannot careful spell this. The spell is actually cast to give Dragon's Breath. It's not cast to give the damage. So we can't careful spell a Dragon's Breath. So some really neat spells added to our repertoire. So let's take a look at our spell list now. As I previously mentioned, Chromatic Orb is now always prepared for us. So I could choose a 1st or 2nd level spell, and I opted to go for the 1st level spell, Featherfall. Now this is a hidden gem for me. This is a spell that I never regret having prepared. And the way that it works is you can choose up to 5 falling creatures within range, and the range is 60 feet, and this spell is cast as a reaction. Now when we cast this, a falling creature's rate of descent slows to 60 feet per round until the spell ends. If a creature lands before the spell ends, the creature takes no damage from the fall, and the spell ends for that creature. So this basically, if we fall into a pit trap, fall off of a cliff, or if we just want to jump off the side of a ship or a tower, we can all safely float to the ground with Featherfall. Now, as a 3rd level sorcerer, we can have up to 6 prepared spells, and we also get 2 2nd level spell slots. So with this, I wanted to make sure I picked up 2 2nd level spells, and the first one that I picked up is Misty Step. This is one of my absolute favorite spells in the entire game. Briefly surrounded by silvery mist, you teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. This is done as a bonus action, and as a sorcerer, there's going to be plenty of times that you're going to want to get out of melee combat. This allows you to do this with no problem whatsoever. You can also get out of a grapple, and you could Misty Step up to different ledges or something, so you don't have to perform skill checks. All kinds of different things you can do with Misty Step. One of the best spells in the game, in my opinion, of course. And for the other 2nd level spell, again, I'm going with a blaster. We're going to do a lot of fire type stuff, and I'm going to go with Scorching Ray. So you hurl 3 fiery rays. You can hurl them at one target within range or at several. Make a ranged spell attack for each ray. On a hit, the target takes 2d6 of fire damage. Now, why this is so good, I'm going to go back to our ability that we received at 1st level, Innate Sorcery. If you recall, that we can use as a bonus action for the next 1 minute to gain advantage on the attack rolls of our sorcerer spells that we cast. Now, since we get 3 Scorching Rays, that's going to be advantage on all 3 of those Scorching Rays. And while this is fantastic at level 3, think of it when we become level 7 and we can upcast our Scorching Ray and we would get 8 rays. 8 rays, all with advantage. That's really, really good. So now that Orville the Red is going to be a level 4 Draconic Sorcerer, we're going to get 2 things here. We're going to get another 2nd level spell slot, so we get to pick another spell that we always have prepared, and we're going to get an ability score improvement or a feat. Now it's up to you as to what you choose here, but I'm going to go ahead and go with Invisibility. Now if you're in a party that doesn't have a spell like Detect Magic, you may want to consider something like that, but Invisibility seems to work really well for me in non-combat situations, and I also have a +5 to Stealth to cover up some of the noises I might make when I'm sneaking about, so I think this would be a fun one to have. But of course, at level 4, we're really interested in this ability score improvement. And the one that I have chosen is Elemental Adept. So with Elemental Adept, we gain the following benefits. We're going to increase our Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma score by 1. So that is going to give us a Charisma of 18. Taking a quick look as to what that does for our character with our charisma of 18, our armor class is now a 17, and our attacks are going to be better, as well as our DCs for enemies to make against our spells. So we have a +6 on our Scorching Rays, our Sorcerous Bursts, and our Chromatic Orbs, and we have a DC of 14 intelligence for a spell such as Mind Sliver. Not to mention, for a sorcerer, Constitution and Charisma are the saving throws that we are proficient in. So we now have a +6 to Charisma saves, and we still have the +4 to Constitution. Now, the other part of Elemental Adept is we get Energy Mastery. Choose one of the following damage types: Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, or Thunder, and spells you cast ignore resistance to damage of the chosen type. In addition, when you roll damage for a spell you cast that deals damage of that type, you can treat any 1 on a damage die as a 2. So this is going to be absolutely gravy for us. So we're of course going to choose fire because all of our spells are fire-based so far. And if we come across devils or demons or any monsters that have fire resistance, then this is going to allow our fire spells to work regardless. So of course it doesn't do anything for immunity, but most monsters are going to have resistance rather than immunity. So this is going to allow us to set things on fire that you would usually resist that fire. And not only that, but any 1 on our damage rolls is going to be a 2. So if you think of all of those attacks we're going to be using with the Scorching Ray or the Burning Hands or Fireball when we get to 5th level, any roll of 1 on the 6 or 8 sided die is automatically going to be a 2. So now let's talk about 5th level. We're going to get another base sorcerer ability, and we're going to be able to pick up our first 2 3rd level spell slots. So with the sorcerer ability at level 5, it's called Sorcerous Restoration. When you finish a short rest, you can regain expended sorcery points. And just as a reminder, at level 5, we have 5 sorcery points, but no more than a number equal to half your sorcerer level, rounded down. So that would be 2 at 5th level. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. So if we take a short rest, we can regain a lot of our sorcery points. Now we can only use this once until we finish a long rest, but that's pretty good. We can do a lot with Careful Spell, with Quicken Spell, and if we need to, we can convert some of those sorcery points into spell slots. So I really like this addition to the 2024 rules for Sorcerer. Now let's talk about our 5th level sorcerer and the spells that we're going to gain. Again, going back to our Draconic spell list, this is the spells that we always have prepared or always know as a Draconic sorcerer. Now at 5th level, we're going to gain Fear and Fly. So with Fear, we're going to create a cone of 30 feet, and every creature within that need to make a wisdom saving throw or be frightened for the duration. And then with Fly, that's going to do exactly what it says. It's going to give a willing creature that we touch a fly speed of 60 feet and can hover. And we'll probably use this on ourselves quite a bit. Now we have a duration of 10 minutes, and that includes concentration. But as a blaster, we're throwing out a lot of fire damage. We don't really have a lot of concentration spells, so we can pick and choose which ones we want. And if we want to fly while we're hurling our fire, we can definitely do so. Now I did get to choose 2 3rd level spells as well, and I went with Utility for the first one, which is going to be Dispel Magic. I feel like somebody in the party should have this to help with magical traps or different things to maybe end magical effects such as a charm spell or something that's on one of our allies. And of course with the 2nd 3rd level selection, I'm going to take Fireball. So with Fireball, it has a range of 150 feet. It has a 20-foot radius sphere of effect, and what happens with this is a bright streak flashes from you to a point you choose within range and blossoms into this fiery roar and explosion. Each creature in that 20-foot radius sphere centered on that point must make a dexterity saving throw, taking 8d6 fire damage on a failed save or half as much on a successful one. And again, we're going to spend 1 sorcery point with our Careful Spell. And since we now have a charisma of +4, we can protect ourselves if we're in the blast and up to 3 other party members, or just 4 party members. But regardless, up to 4 creatures with Careful Spell on our Fireball are going to be safe from the explosion. Okay, so Orville the Red is now a 6th level Draconic Sorcerer, and at this level we're going to get another 3rd level spell, but we're also going to get our subclass feature for the Draconic Sorcerer. So let's take a look at that first. The ability that we're going to gain is called Elemental Affinity. Your Draconic magic has an affinity with a damage type associated with dragons. Choose one of these types, either acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. You have resistance to that damage type. And when you cast a spell that deals damage of that type, you can add your charisma modifier to 1 damage roll of that spell. So we're going to choose fire. So now we are going to officially have fire resistance. And whenever we roll like a fireball or a chromatic orb, we're going to be able to add a +4 to that roll. Now do keep in mind, this isn't to every attack roll. So if we do Scorching Ray and we have 4 or 5 rays, we're only going to be able to add that +4 to one of those rolls. Now I feel pretty confident in all the spells that we have so far, so the next spell that I'm going to add, again I get to add one more here at 6th level, I'm going to choose Arcane Vigor. I've never actually played this spell before, but it is a 2nd level spell, and it says that we can tap into our life force to heal ourselves, and we can roll 1 or 2 of our unexpended hit point dice and regain a number of hit points equal to the rolls total plus our spellcasting modifier. So we would roll 2 6-sided dice, and at this level with an 18 charisma, we would add 4. Now, that is used as a bonus action, so if we need a few hit points, we can bonus action do that, and then we can use our action to disengage or cast a cantrip or what have you. But let me know in the comment section below, what spell would you add, anything from 1st, 2nd, or 3rd level that would fill a gap in our current prepared or known spells. Now at 7th level, we're going to get another base sorcerer ability, and we're also going to get a 4th level spell. But taking a look at our base sorcerer ability at level 7, it is Sorcery Incarnate. If you have no uses of Innate Sorcery left, you can use it if you spend 2 sorcery points when you take the bonus action to activate it. In addition, while your Innate Sorcery feature is active, you can use up to 2 of your Metamagic options on each spell you cast. So our Innate Sorcery, again, that is our ability that we received at level 1, and when we activate our Innate Sorcery for 1 minute, our spell DC increases by 1, but more importantly, we have advantage on our attack rolls with the sorcerer spells we cast. So at level 7, we have 7 sorcery points. We can use 2 of those to give us another instance of Innate Sorcery and get it going with a bonus action. Now, the second part of this says in addition, but I do believe this would work even if you didn't spend the sorcery points to gain an extra use of it. I believe that if you are using your Innate Sorcery for the first time, second time, what have you, that you would still be able to use this part of this Sorcery Incarnate, which states while your Innate Sorcery feature is active, you can use up to 2 of your Metamagic options on each spell you cast. So not only can we use our Careful Metamagic for Fireball for 1 sorcery point, but if we spend 3 sorcery points total, we can use Careful Spell and we can quicken it as a bonus action. So this is really cool and allows for some really creative tactical options in combat. Now at 7th level, we do get our first 4th level spell, and of course I'm going to stay on theme with the synergy of Wall of Fire. Now we can create this Wall of Fire 60 feet long, 20 foot high, or we can make it a ringed wall, but regardless, when the wall appears, each creature in its area must make a dexterity saving throw, taking 5d8 of fire damage on a failed save or half as much on a successful one. So for, I believe, for the initial casting of Wall of Fire, we could use our Careful spell, but after that, then the characters are no longer going to be protected by the Careful spell. Definitely correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below. And then finally, let's not forget that we get Draconic spells at 7th level. Again, these are going to be bonus spells that we always have prepared or always know that we can cast with our spell slots. So at level 7, we're going to get Arcane Eye, which creates an invisible, invulnerable eye that's going to allow us to spy and move things around. And we're also going to get Charm Monster. So one creature that we can see within range is going to make a Wisdom saving throw. It does so with advantage if us or our allies are fighting it, but on a failed save, if the target is going to have the charm condition until the spell ends or until our allies or ourselves damage it. And the charm creature is going to be friendly to us. So 2 really good spells, Arcane Eye and Charm Monster, along with our Wall of Fire. Okay, so now Orville the Red is an 8th level Hobgoblin Draconic Sorcerer, and at this level we're going to get another ability score improvement and another 4th level spell. So let's take a look at the ability score improvement first, and at the 8th and 12th level, I plan on taking ones that are going to give us a +1 to Charisma. So why not select one of my favorite feats of all time, the Fey Touch feat. Now this is going to give us a +1 to Charisma, and it is also going to give us a free casting of Misty Step once per day, and we can use our spell slots to cast Misty Step. So with that in mind, we can now replace Misty Step, because every time you advance a level, you can replace one spell you know with a different spell. And we'll get to that spell here in just a second. But we also get to choose a first level spell to go along with that. Now, I have chosen Silvery Barbs, and for those of you not familiar, this is a very powerful spell that allows us to make a creature re-roll a d20 and use the lower roll. Not only that, but it also gives advantage to a creature that we may target. Now, Silvery Barbs may not be allowed in every game. Be sure to check with your Dungeon Master before you pick this. It's also in a book. I think it is in Strixhaven, so it's not in one of the core rule books. But if I'm not able to choose Silvery Barbs, then I'll probably take something utility like a Detect Evil and Good, a Detect Magic, Comprehend Languages, or something like that. Now with the spells, I decided once again to go with something that's a little bit more utility, and I went with Water Walk, which is going to allow us to walk across any liquid surface such as water, acid, mud, snow, or quicksand, or lava, as if it were harmless solid ground. And I figure at these higher levels, we're probably going to have some types of terrain like this. And the other 4th level spell that I have taken is Greater Invisibility, another one of my favorites. I love being able to cast a fireball when nobody can see me. And once again, let me know what spells you would take in this situation in the comment section below. So Orville is coming together very well as a Draconic Sorcerer, and I think it's at this point in the video, we've been going on for quite a bit, that I'm going to call it quits on the spell portion of it. So I'm not going to offer any more spell selections or ideas at this time, but let's definitely go through the rest of the abilities. And as we can see here on the Sorcerer features chart, level 9, we're going to get a 5th level spell. And if you'd like to tell me what you would pick, please do so in the comment section below. That would be cool. But let's go through the rest of them and take a look at the abilities we're going to get. Starting at level 10, we're going to get another Metamagic. And choosing from the options, I've already had these in mind. Remember, we already have the Careful and the Quicken spell. So the first one I'm going to select is going to be the Subtle spell. Whenever we cast a spell, we can spend 1 sorcery point to cast it without any verbal, somatic, or material components, as long as the material components are not ones that are consumed by the spell. I've always loved the Subtle spell as far as being sneaky with our spell casting, so no one can tell that we're actually casting a spell, because again, you're not using any verbal or somatic components. And the second one I'm going to select is the Transmuted spell. So when you cast a spell that deals a type of damage from the following list, you can spend 1 sorcery point to change the damage type to any of the other listed types. So that's acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, or thunder. And this is going to come in like if I pick some type of a cold-based damage spell, I can convert that to fire damage. Or if we're fighting something and it's more advantageous for me to use cold or lightning or thunder or something along those lines, I can convert something like my fireball to a different element type. So it would be a big acid ball or big lightning ball or big thunder ball, whatever I choose. So the 2 Metamagics I'm selecting at level 10 is going to be Subtle and Transmuted. Now at level 12, we're going to get another feat or ability score improvement. So we can finally get that charisma score to 20. And the one that I have selected is Spell Sniper. So Spell Sniper, we get that +1 to charisma, and we get a few abilities with that. We have Bypass Cover, where your attack rolls for spells ignore half cover and 3/4 cover. That's going to come in very handy with our Scorching Ray. If we cast that at a very high level, then whoever our target is aren't going to get the benefits of cover. Casting in melee, if we want to do that and we're within 5 feet, normally on a ranged spell attack, you're going to have disadvantage. Now we can just Scorching Ray point blank. Somebody right in front of us, we can just let them have it. And then increased range. When you cast a spell that has a range of at least 10 feet and requires you to make an attack roll, you can increase the spell's range by 60 feet. So taking a look at Orville as a 12th level character, you can see over here on the right, we have our attacks. And now that we have a 20 charisma, we have a +9 to our Sorcerous Burst, our Scorching Rays, our Chromatic Orbs. And with the Spell Sniper ability, we also add to the distance of this. So Sorcerous Burst has 180 feet, same with Scorching Ray, and our Chromatic Orb can go 150 feet. And of course, that +5 on our charisma is going to help with our armor class, finally putting that up to 18 in any charisma-based saving throws or skills. Now at level 14, our Draconic Sorcerer is going to give us another ability, and this one's going to be called Dragon Wings. As a bonus action, you can cause Draconic Wings to appear on your back. The wings last for 1 hour or until you dismiss them with no action required. For the duration, you have a fly speed of 60 feet. Once we use this feature, we can't use it again until we finish a long rest, or we spend 3 sorcery points with no action required to restore our use of it. So if we don't want to waste a 3rd level spell slot on fly, we can use our Dragon Wings for an hour, and it doesn't even require concentration. And while we're here, let's take a look at our Draconic Sorcerer level 18 ability called Dragon Companion. You can cast Summon Dragon without a material component. You can also cast it once without a spell slot, and you regain the ability to cast it in this way when you finish a long rest. Whenever you start casting a spell, you can modify it so that it doesn't require concentration. If you do so, the spell's duration becomes 1 minute for that casting. So for an example, a Summon Dragon spell has a duration of 1 hour and it requires concentration, but if we use 1 minute to cast a spell, then the remaining 59 minutes are going to be without concentration, and we can have our dragon. Now, Summon Dragon is part of the spells we received as our Draconic spell list at level 9, where we got Legend Lore and Summon Dragon. I like the Summon Dragon spell. I think it adds a lot to the flavor of the Draconic Sorcerer, and hopefully one day I'll be high enough level with this character that I'll be able to give it a try. Now going back to our Sorcerer chart at level 16, we're going to get either an ability score improvement or another feat, and it's going to depend on the campaign and where my character is at this point in their career as far as what I choose next. Since we already have a charisma of 20, maybe there's something else in there that will be more advantageous for us. Be sure to leave a comment below. Let me know what you would pick at level 16. Now at level 17, we're going to get 2 more Metamagic options. And to be fair, the same as far as picking the feat on the previous level, it's going to depend on where my character is and what kind of a campaign I'm in before I'm going to make a decision on what Metamagic I would use. Now as a level 19 sorcerer, we get an epic boon, and the sorcerer guide here recommends Boon of Dimensional Travel, which gives you a free Misty Step after you take the attack or the magic action. But I think after reading through these, there's one that I'm probably going to default on for a lot of my characters, and that is the Boon of Recovery. So you gain the following benefits. We're going to be able to increase an ability score by 1 to a maximum of 30, which is pretty neat. And then we have the ability Last Stand. When you would be reduced to 0 hit points, you can drop to 1 hit point instead and regain a number of hit points equal to half your hit point maximum. Once you use this benefit, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. So very similar to something like an orc, where if they reach 0 hit points, they come back with 1, but instead of 1, we're actually going to go half of our hit points. Which at 19th level, we have a maximum of 135 hit points, so we're going to gain approximately 67 hit points back. Oh, plus 1, 68. I think. My math is terrible. But not only that, we have another ability called Recover Vitality. You have a pool of 10 D10s. As a bonus action, you can expend dice from the pool, roll those dice, and regain a number of hit points equal to the roll's total. You regain all the expended dice when you finish a long rest. So since we don't have a lot of healing, and just in case we get wiped by a huge gargantuan creature in the first couple rounds of combat, Boon of Recovery is going to make sure that we stay in the fight. And then finally, level 20 Sorcerer, we get an ability called Arcane Apotheosis. While your Innate Sorcery feature is active, you can use 1 Metamagic option on each of your turns without spending sorcery points on it. So again, the Innate Sorcery ability that we received at level 1, everything comes full circle. We're still adding features to it, and now at level 20, we can just cast spells with Metamagic attached to it. No sorcery points required. Okay, so we are closing in on an hour, and I hope you enjoyed this character build. That is Orville the Red. He is my Hobgoblin Draconic Sorcerer, and this is definitely a character that I would play. I've played 2 Draconic Sorcerers in the past, and I absolutely love the subclass. And to be fair, D&D 2024, with the changes to the Draconic Sorcerer, to the Sorcerer class itself, I am really digging the changes. Well done. Really like them. So let me know in the comment section below, what did you think of this character build? What are some of the things that you liked, and what are some of the things that you would do differently? Be sure to leave a comment below. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Thank you very much for watching, and on to the next.